Welcome everybody back to Sonic X Shadow Generation. And I am using the movie DLC pack, but actually out in the hub world and in the regular levels, because for whatever reason, they did not want to add compatibility for the rest of the game, just the Tokyo DLC. Now, I love this skin so much because a lot of the time when I actually pick up mods, it's usually a cosmetic, it's usually a skin, because I really want to play as a different depiction of one of my beloved Sonic characters. I find that usually these kinds of skins from spin-off media are delegated to like spin-off stuff like Sonic Forces Mobile. You don't actually get to see them playable in the mainline games, the main product for the franchise that's arguably a lot more important. Now, a cool thing about this mod is that on the character select screen, it uses all of his poses and all of his animations that they had for the DLC just on any stage anywhere, as if it was normally integrated into the base game, like it should have been. And of course, you actually have support for the Doom Wings. Now, I theorized that one of the main reasons that Movie Shadow wasn't playable with the rest of the games was because of the Doom powers. And that is true to a degree. Obviously, you can just put the regular Doom powers on his model, and it looks okay. There's probably a laundry list of challenges that came up with that too. One of the things that made Movie Shadow a little bit difficult to put into the base game is because his model is like a completely different rig than the regular Shadow. His face has a completely different skeleton and everything, so a lot of the animations for like specific mid-level cutscenes and boss fights completely breaks. That was one of the big struggles that SEGA might have had when trying to implement this Shadow in. Like, you would have had to do a completely redone rigging for the skeleton and everything to make it compatible with the base game. And that being said, I have a few mods enabled here today that looked really cool with this like sidestep slide animation coming down the slope last minute there without falling into the abyss. So one of the most obvious things that I have for Shadow here today is the skating animation when he is boosting. Now, I do think that the hover boost fits Movie Shadow specifically really well, because Movie Shadow is like kind of overpowered, and I think that the hover boost animation, while not as expressive or iconic, it just shows a level of aggression and power that Movie Shadow has compared to like Game Shadow. Game Shadow is obviously very powerful, but Movie Shadow just kind of has like this overpowered aura to him that they kind of intentionally did to like build him up as a villain. So, yeah. But that being said, since the skeleton is completely broken on the movie model for the base levels, I have a mod enabled that gets rid of all of these mid-level transitions and animations, which is not only really good for speedrunning. Yeah, look, he doesn't have a rig set up for this the free-falling animation, so it just defaults to his kind of battle idle. Now, that mod is actually very helpful for multiple things. It makes a seamless experience for playing as Movie Shadow in the base levels, and it's also really good for replaying levels when speedrunning, because there's a lot of moments that are just kind of like empty air in the base game when you want to do replays, especially the Black Doom segments. Now, like I was saying earlier, I just think it's so sick to play as a completely different depiction from spin-off media of this character, because there's so many little nuanced differences, like the jump ball, for example, how like smooth it is. The fact that visually it's entirely different than the regular, just flat-colored gradient spin ball that we usually see for Sonic and Shadow in the Hedgehog Engine 2 games. It's also really cool to see this design of Shadow squaring up against the Doom Eye and this distorted version of Radical Highway. And I just like love how so many of the base game animations look on this model. I think it looks a lot better than the base game model just based on his proportions alone. I don't know. He just feels like skinnier and lankier, and it feels like his limbs don't bend nearly as much as base game Shadow. I don't know. It's probably a bunch of recency bias too, but yeah, like look at this. That's what happens when you aren't skipping sequences. It's just the face as well, because the facial structure is entirely different. He's got like a bunch of like bones in his cheek and stuff for like more complex animation, because this is like a character design based off of like a real world movie, a live action film. Part of Movie Shadow not having support for specific animations like his like level entrances and his sliding down the slope is also because I think the way oh god, that looked like a Halloween costume, like a pullover sheet ghost. I think a big part of this is also because Movie Shadow, due to the nature of his model, it's almost developed as if it's a separate character. Usually when you're modding, oh god, his face was stretching. In an early version of this code to use Movie Shadow, it actually just used his already made victory animations on any other level. This is what the Space Colony arc looks like using his S-rank animation from the DLC. Perfect. I don't know why Hyper changed it, but I massively preferred having Movie Shadow's original ranking animations, because that's like half the fun with the DLC, is how much new stuff they made for Movie Shadow that distinguishes him as this completely different version of Shadow from a completely different universe. So having the option between the vanilla animations with vanilla game Shadow and having the brand new animations with Movie Shadow, I think was something that I really valued, and I'm sad that it's gone in this current patch of the Movie Shadow Anywhere code. The way that character files work in Hedgehog Engine 2 games is like, you have pack files, which are just kind of like zipped, encrypted folders, kind of, that has like all the information for the characters. So like, oh, okay, that was the world's, like, weirdest save, but I feel very good about my gaming abilities for reacting to that one. So, like, for example, Sonic's files are just delegated to a file called sonic.pack. The playable version of Knuckles, Tails, and Amy are knucklesp.pack, tailsp.pack, amyp.pack, because they also have their NPC versions as well. Shadow in this game is obviously shadow.pack, and then there's also mauve-shadow.pack, which implies that this is like a very differently made character. And an interesting comparison I can kind of draw here with my experience modding Sonic Frontiers is that when Angry Zora released the character normalizer for Frontiers that allowed you to play Tails, Knuckles, and Amy in the cyberspace levels, essentially what that mod did is it gave them the same physics properties as Sonic, so that they can do things like wall jump and just exist in cyberspace, and other mechanics that weren't coded for them specifically. Oh, he looks so cute with the movie design and his round face and his plump cheeks being carried by the wind there. Here's another sequence break. Oh wow, that's funny. It just kind of like flung me off the rail and he perfectly landed onto the road. That was smooth as hell. Like, these don't take you out of it, and visually the transitions aren't too broken, which I really love about this mod. It doesn't feel like I'm missing much of like the intended official experience in the game. But yeah, because you see Shadow in states like this, it reminds me a lot of the character normalizer mod in Frontiers, where you have characters like Knuckles, who are just kind of stationary in animation when doing wall jumps, and you have Movie Shadow here, stationary when he's skydiving. Kind of makes me think that Movie Shadow was kind of programmed as if he was a different character thanks to the rigging in his model. Like, you can't just port the skeleton from Game Shadow to Movie Shadow, and that's what makes it a little bit difficult to mod this character. The code that I'm using here to play Movie Shadow in the regular levels is pretty functional, especially if you're using the sequence skipping mod that doesn't make you look at the horrific skeleton issues. To me, this is like a really immersive way to replay the game. Especially because in a lot of those scenes too, you'll see Kirk Shadow having interactions with Black Doom or thinking to himself, and I love Kirk Shadow, but obviously this is Keanu's Shadow. Part of why I'm playing this at all is because I want to listen to the Keanu Reeves officially made movie collaboration pack in all the rest of the game. Look at him. That's just his battle idol. It's kind of fitting with Movie Shadow, because Movie Shadow is a very quiet and nonchalant character. All of his movements are very predatory. He's kind of just locked in all the time. He doesn't have time to pop a flip in the air and say, "I'm the coolest." He's just looking for the best possible way that he can snap your neck. But it brings a tear of happiness to my eye, seeing SEGA officially doing these kinds of collaborations between their main products and their, like, more mainstream products. Also, look at this imagery of, like, a regular Sonic game design paired up next to the Tyson Hess hyper-realistic movie design. Just from this small tidbit between Big and Shadow, you could see the differences in their fur materials. Movie Shadow's a lot fuzzier. The first and only mod I ever made for Sonic Frontiers was putting Knuckles the Dread into that game. Because, you know, Knuckles being a playable character, naturally I wanted to see some DLC outfits for him, like Sonic got. We didn't really get that, unfortunately, but that's why I love modding so much, is that I don't have to rely on the devs officially to get that done. I can do it. Other people can do it. It's wonderful. But the main reason that I really want to Dread in is because I just adore Dread's design. Like, say what you want about the writing of Sonic Prime, I don't think it's anything special. It's just kind of like a dumb entertainment show. That being said, the character designs in that show are phenomenal. Rusty Rose, Knuckles the Dread, like, they cooked with that. And regardless of how you feel about Sonic Movie 3 when it comes out, I love, like, just the visual look of his jump ball and just how compact and squishy Movie Shadow's face is and everything. Like, he is artistically just very interesting to look at, especially knowing that he is from a completely foreign world compared to the canon game world. Like, he is so hyper-realistic in comparison to the other characters, even though he is a big-eyed cartoon character. It's just such a difference in design philosophy that makes it really cool to see this mix and match. In fact, I actually think it's really cool seeing Movie Shadow specifically here in Kingdom Valley, because Sonic 06 was kind of going for like a more edgy, realistic kind of rebooted look at the franchise. And, you know, it was kind of the culmination of the adventure era and GameCube games kind of having a more realistic touch to them. The Doom Power works so well. I wish that we had the animation of Movie Shadow beating the absolute hell out of the Black Arms, but what are you gonna do? Maybe in a future update when it's more convenient to do, right? But it's still nice that the Doom Power works properly. You know, that's just the thing, is from an artistic POV, no matter how you feel with the movie, it's so cool seeing the movie-accurate design with the Keanu Reeves voice in a game where you can just play the regular canon Shadow that we all know about. Whenever people talk about skins in video games, they always bring up Insomniac Spider-Man, because Insomniac Spider-Man was the king of cosmetics in games. Because they weren't afraid to clash with styles. They weren't afraid to use older licensed properties that were like 20 years old. Like, we got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man outfit in that game, despite their main base game, Spider-Man, having this, like, already pretty complicated, futuristic design in his costume comparatively. It's very cozy, and I don't know, it kind of, like, has a lot of opportunities to, like, bring back good memories when Sonic 3 is, like, a pretty old film, and then you see the skin officially in Generations whenever you're replaying it on a whim, and you're like, damn, I remember the hype for that movie. I remember how good this moment was when I first saw it and how much it shocked me. You know, like, there's just so much opportunity. Oh, wow, I actually managed to recover that. Nice. I wasn't sure that I was going to get this top path. I just love seeing Movie Shadow side by side the realistic 06. Boom, boom. The realistic 06 enemies. Like, look at that bullet in the air. Call me Silver the Hedgehog, dude, the way I'm slowing everything down. Like, this is easily one of the best fitting levels for Movie Shadow, even though we would literally never see Kingdom Valley in the movies. This section paired up with Shadow's, like, skating slide animations, like, one of my favorite moments of Shadow Gens. I'm just so happy with how they overhauled Shadow's quick-stepping in this game compared to Sonic's. It was such an unexpected, weird change that they never really gave a tutorial for, but, like, watch this. Like, it's just so sick that you can hold the direction. Oh my god, he looks like how I tried drawing Sonic characters as a child. But, like, that being said, like, I would love to see a Prime Shadow as a DLC in this game, and with Sonic Racing Crossworlds happening, we might even have the potential for that to happen. Oh yeah, here's a fun thing that we could look at. Game Gerald and Game Maria next to Movie Shadow. What other video game would you have the opportunity to see this comparison in? You know, every other Sonic game that's existed in the past 10, 15 years, you know, you can mod in different skins for Shadow or mod in Shadow skins over Sonic, and you can look at him in those games, but how often are you going to get the opportunity to officially compare the movie design with the official movie DLC to the official in-game designs of older characters like Gerald and Maria? This is a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Like, the only thing that's modded here is a code that allows us to use this DLC in the base game. But these are all official SEGA models that are supposed to be intended for the same exact game. You know, it's funny, depending on how evil Gerald is and what happens between Gerald and Movie Shadow in Sonic 3, this scene could make a lot of sense with the movie DLC. You know, Gerald could just be a heartless monster in the movie, and Shadow can turn on him or something. But I don't know, very fun seeing these modern redesigns of those characters, and then this even more modern redesign of Movie Shadow. And this is a really good level to play Movie Shadow on, or just any skin mod that you may have in general, because it gives you such a perfect look at them up close in-game, in the engine, commencing with all their action sequences. Like, that's the best showcase that you can give for a skin mod that you're making, is that exact scene there. Also, a little off topic, I love that when you Chaos Control the water spouts, you can go directly through them, and they don't impede your progress. There is so much nuance between Hedgehog Engine 2 Shadow and Hedgehog Engine 2 Sonic and, you know, Generation Sonic and Generation Shadow. Like, their movesets are so different. Like, Frontier Sonic can do magnet dashing to, like, zip and zoom across the level, whereas Shadow can do spear vaulting, and both kind of, like, effectively keeps their speed in situations where they're not supposed to keep it. Because usually when you jump while boosting a Shadow, you're going to, like, you know, lose speed, but if you just spear vault, you'll keep it. Now, cool thing about the sequence breaking mod is that you can actually get hit by those boulders after hitting the ramp. It is a shame that we don't get to see Movie Shadow in that awesome, badass sequence with the Death Egg robots, but unfortunately that's going to have to be a sacrifice that we take just to get him playable right now. Country girls make do, man. But it's also really refreshing, like, doing a full revisit of this game from level 1 using the Keanu voice pack, especially if you're a speedrunner, because in those quiet moments where you commence Chaos Control, you get to hear that new line, and occasionally you get jump scared by a Kirk line. And I feel like replaying this game as Movie Shadow is going to hit a lot harder after seeing the movie and seeing how vicious that, like, 2024 reimagined version of a reawakened SA2 Shadow would be. You know, because, like, I have a feeling that Movie Shadow is going to be 10 times more vicious than SA2 Shadow, or even Shadow the Hedgehog Shadow could have been. But to be fair, Shadow the Hedgehog Shadow was actually allowed to kill, and I really doubt that Movie Shadow is going to be allowed to do that, but I don't know, it's just going to go harder playing this specific version of him that had, like, absolutely no limits as to what he would do. Because Game Shadow after Shadow 05 has chilled the hell out, he is reformed. But this Shadow, he's going to hold a certain reputation until the eventual Sonic 4 comes out where he's a full good guy. It's also really fun seeing the Movie Shadow design in these really fantastical, whimsical environments that are just pure nonsense and imagination. Because he is a cartoon character, but in his source material movie, it's primarily going to be, like, you know, realistic cities. So it's fun to kind of see him out of his element a little bit more. It's also just really fun running around the open world and seeing what cool movement you can chain while parkouring above the water, while using this completely different design. Like, one of the best ways to admire a cosmetic for a character is to just run around and just do cinematically cool looking stuff as them. I really enjoyed the simple nature of a lot of Keanu's line reads for this DLC. Here's a Movie Shadow next to Game Rouge. Movie Shadow kind of looks like a baby right next to Rouge. I don't know how to describe it. It's his cheeks. So here's something cool. We're going to see a character from the movies exploring a place from Frontiers. And I heavily associate Sonic Frontiers with the movies because it feels like Power Boost, just as a whole, conceptually, was, inspired by the movie. And it feels like Sonic Frontiers can thank a lot of its success to the interest that people had in Sonic 2, the movie, which released in the same year. It's really fun seeing an official movie DLC in the same place as an official redux of a Frontiers level. It's just funny how we come full circle like this, huh? I was really disappointed with the movie Sonic cosmetic they had in Sonic Colors Ultimate. It deserved a full model change like this. And you know what's funny? I would have taken just the model. Like, I wouldn't have also expected them to get the actual actor's voice work too. Like, having a Ben Schwartz voiced movie Sonic costume for Sonic Colors Ultimate or even Sonic Frontiers would have been mind-blowing. But I think it's like 2 times more impressive that they got it with Keanu Reeves in Shadow for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think that movie Sonic cosmetic deserved a lot better. And I hope that in the future we're not like out of opportunities to give us a movie Knuckles or a movie Sonic skin as well. I guess that's the point of this entire video I'm making, is like, I just want to see them go ham with cosmetics and alternative skins in the mainline games. Like, I play a lot of the mobile games just because of how pretty the original designs are. But the moment that they start putting it in the mainline games too, you might actually see me buying digital deluxe versions more often. I've never actually bought a digital deluxe version for a game at all until Shadow Generations promised that they would have a new character pack. That's what got me to break my oath of not buying deluxe editions, because they usually feel like scams, you know? And you can argue whether or not this was entirely worth it, but I mean, getting the Tyrio skin and the movie skin, like, those are better cosmetics than anything in Frontiers, and Frontiers had some really cool stuff with like the Kingdom Hearts 100% completion crown and the birthday outfit and the Monster Hunter armor. I think the Monster Hunter armor might be the strongest DLC outfit in that game. But something simple like this that stays true to the franchise and is like kind of up to date with like brand new current events in the franchise. Like, I love events in games. It's so cool that you have this mainline boost game that can kind of date itself a little bit and be like, yeah, that's when Sonic 3 released. They did a cross promotion. And it's really sick too, because when it's happening in the moment, like, there's so much more hype around that new movie, around that new game, whatever the cross promotion may be. Like, I love in Sonic Force's Speed Battle when they do cross promotions based around new mainline games that come out. Like, they added Classic Super Sonic to the game when Sonic Superstars was new, and that felt great because that was the first time that like Classic Super Sonic had gotten an awesome moment in about 7 years. And it just like makes it you feel like they care a little bit more about the mainline games after they're released. When you see things like the Frontiers update roadmap and, you know, them adding brand new DLC skins to the game like a few months after it's already out, especially cross-promoting with something as important as the film. The entire year of Shadow was basically the marketing campaign for the movie. That's how important the movies are. I think it's always been a dream of modders to put custom voices in their skin packs, especially when it's a different design of the character that they're modding it over. So it's like a dream come true to actually see Keanu willingly doing this voice work. And if you're new here, check out the modding playlist, because I already have a ton of Frontiers mods, a bunch of Sonic Generations mods, and we're going to be covering as much Shadow Generations mods as we can as they release. And of course, as always, everything that I've played today will be down in the description below if you want to play Movie Shadow on a replay of this game yourself. I didn't show every level I could, mainly to save time, but also so that you could have something for yourself.